Hey, welcome to Film Lovers or Sick People. I am here with Justin over from Style is Substance. How are we doing today, Justin?
My neck is killing me, but I'm okay.
This is new. We got video here. You could see us in our natural habitat. Justin has a fucking cool background. I don't have a cool background, but
Yeah.
I mean, this might be cool. You know what? I want to redo it because I would like to have ads on this video. I cursed in the first like 30 seconds of the video.
All right, we can do it over again.
No, no, no. We'll leave this in so they get
Oh,
the
okay.
meat and potato. This is what you don't see. See, I'm sacrificing for authenticity here.
All right, sounds good to me.
That way you
So,
see what actual like YouTubers say to each other, the bullshit malarkey they get into. Today we're actually going over a movie called The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. It's I was really interested in this when it was announced. I think you actually were the one who told me about it, Justin. I don't think it would have taken me a long time to figure out this was
yeah,
happening.
because nobody is talking about it.
No, nobody at all. Like you have to specifically search for it to find it. I would have had little to no idea this was even happening. And what's essentially happening is Francis Ford Coppola. I think that we all. I know it's more than a quarantine project, but we all have quarantine projects. And Francis's quarantine project was, you know what? I'm gonna fix up that one movie of mine people said was underwhelming. And he edited a few things, rearranged a few things, and gave us The Godfather Coda, The Death of Michael Corleone. And he states that it's closer to the original vision that he and Mario Puzo had for the ending. Um,
Yeah, so this is The Godfather Part 3 recut, basically.
yeah.
And I think it's kind of great, honestly.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. It's just cool because we're coming from two different perspectives, and based on the the small amount of reviews and analysis that is available of this movie, uh, they all say relatively the same thing. A lot of people are trying to act like way too fucking cool about it and be like, nah, three was always considered great. And it's like, no, it fucking wasn't. It was considered like um
the
it
biggest
was considered
disappointment
prequels bad. It was considered
the biggest disappointment in cinema before Phantom Menace, basically.
yeah, Sofia Coppola
Um,
and Jar Jar Binks had a lot in common back then. Like
I've always been on the pro Godfather Part 3 side of things, but I
yeah,
mean,
that's what I was getting at. Like you've always liked part three. I didn't. I was part of the crowd, the majority. I want to say the majority don't like part three. It wasn't even in my
or
head canon when I would watch these films. I was
yeah, or at the very least, everybody finds it like underwhelming. And like if you compare it to the first two, because I've rewatched the first two Godfathers also, like like even with Coda, it is not it pales in comparison. But I think that like Coppola never really intended Part 3 or Coda to be another chapter. It's more like an epilogue. Like what happens after life is no longer epic in a way. It's a continuation, but it's like more like what happens next, but not so much like another chapter that's supposed to be on par with the other two. If that makes sense.
no, absolutely. You've described it as supplemental, and
Mhm.
I think that's the best way to view it. And but that's a good perspective because I think it enhanced your enjoyment of the third one, and it actually made me like the third one. So a couple things were cut and a couple things were changed. What I can definitely say, without going into what exactly was changed, and by the way, that's kind of hard to find for no good reason.
Yeah,
Um,
this is this is like the most popular or the most acclaimed franchise like of all time, and like I can't
yeah,
even find like good articles that like list the differences.
no,
But
not at all. I know that like a good 12 minutes was cut out of the movie, and I remember this Coda feels so much more focused, and in being so much more
yeah,
focused, it allows these moments to shine through, not just the Coppola's composition, but the performances as well to really shine through. Like I'm crazy. I watched it. I don't rewatch The Godfather 3. I watched Coda like twice in a week, and like it's more enjoyable the second time. And now I do think I'm crazy. I don't think it's on the same level as one or two. That's just insanity.
is anything though.
It, I,
Not
I,
really.
that's
Not many
probably true.
films.
In order to review movies like and keep my sanity at the same time, I always have to pretend that The Godfather or Coppola's 70s work that doesn't exist. at all, or else I'm just like, I can't really compare anything to anything. I have to pretend The Godfather doesn't exist in order to say that any other movie is great.
Right. Yeah.
But
Makes sense.
Coda, I do feel crazy in saying, because I'm a huge fan of, like, all of the great acting in the originals. We could list them, but it's literally every actor who appeared in those movies. But Andy Garcia in Coda, like, really, really gets to shine through, and I think he's on a
Yeah.
level of James Caan. I think he's on a level of a Part Two Al Pacino. Like, I think he's on that level, and it's a
It's,
disgrace that he wasn't seen as such in 1990. He's
well, even
incredible.
even when I first watched it, when I watched it as part three before Coda came out, like I mean, I liked him in it, but when I saw it in Coda, when everything's more focused, like it just really like it gave me goosebumps, especially when like he kind of becomes like adopted or like kind of unofficially adopted into the family proper. Like when he's like, you are now Vincent Corleone.
Yeah,
It
like
was
when
great.
Michael essentially relinquishes power and he becomes and Vincent becomes the new Godfather, I guess. It's such a powerful scene. I don't remember it being that powerful. It
Oh,
was
me
moving,
neither.
it was captivating. And through that performance I was able to see that Garcia was channeling both James Caan's Sonny and Al Pacino's Michael from the first two films while transcending it into his own character as well. But like
Yeah,
you could see equal part Sonny and Michael and turning into this kind of
composite.
karmic like
Yeah,
villain. Like it's all because of Michael
and
once
even
again.
within like even within like just Coda, like you see like that character mature quite a bit, like from
Hmm.
when he starts off.
And
It's really magnificent in a way.
and this is an
Um,
arc I didn't notice before. It's an arc I didn't appreciate before because
mhm.
I do know there was more of the Eli Wallach scenes, and even in Coda he's supposed to be an annoying character. He's supposed to be a grating and infuriating character. But I felt like the time I had with Coda was almost too much time. So I'm glad that we cut a little bit of Eli Wallach out of there and like
It,
focused
it
it more on this situation with Michael, Mary, and Vincent. And
it trims the fat is what it does.
it does.
It's more focused. You can fixate on the characters and not just Andy Garcia's character, but also Michael Corleone, like especially in that confession scene. Like he
Mm.
starts off like kind of just passively doing it, but then he just realizes, oh my goodness, I killed my brother. I killed Fredo. And then he's
That's
like,
one of the best. That's one of the best.
yeah, because like he didn't like really repent, but then suddenly it's like, oh my, like he's really coming to terms with what he has done, even though it's been like 20, 30 years or however many. Like,
Kind of makes you see like uh, how undervalued this film was. I mean, Pacino's performance here, I think it was a pretty brave performance to do in 1990, considering how frail and old and impotent it made him look. He did it so well. Um,
yeah.
did it so fucking well, and it's kind of a scary role to do because he did it. He did it so amazingly. I'm surprised he was even giving like more virile or masculine roles like Heat and things later on because he did this so
Yeah, that's after.
he
Yeah,
really pulled it off.
that's. I need to pinpoint the exact moment that Al Pacino's voice became raspy, though. Like, because watching it
Yeah, I
from
brought that up
Godfather,
to you. That was
eh,
like, yeah, that was like my mission in life is to figure out when, because it sounds like an angel in Dog Day Afternoon and Godfather. And then
yeah, I
something
watched them
happened.
back
Must
to
be
back.
around
It
cruising because I
was
think it was
rough.
gone in Scarface.
What's
I
hard to,
think he
well, I mean,
already lost it in
he was doing
Scarface.
that
So
he was doing that accent in that one at the same time, so it's like we don't know for sure.
I'm pretty sure you mean that flawless accent and characterization in that one. It's probably in Cruising or Serpico. I don't know. It was somewhere. I
It's
don't
been
know
a
where it
while. Yeah,
happened,
I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen Storpico, but
but it went away. You also linked me an article I thought was fascinating and a delight to read. I think the unsung performances of all three movies are Diane Keaton is always on point, and no
oh, I
one
love
ever
her in
talks
this one.
about how incredible Diane Keaton is. And you sent me an article before Coda was released about Diane Keaton being able to watch Coda and calling it one of like the best experiences of her of her career, being able to see this film that she knew had value, like being showcased in a proper way. And you and I analyze enough movies to know that You make a minor change or frame something differently, you change the tone to a film, you change everything about it. Like everything about a film can
Yeah,
be changed by one small
and
cut.
and for those that are unaware, basically The Godfather 3, it was rushed in its production. So like the editing wasn't exactly what Coppola wanted, even back in 1990. I'm sure some of the edit choices were like done in hindsight, but at the same time, like it was always rushed. It was never quite what he wanted. And I think Diane Keaton and the others were like very impressed with how it ended up turning out when he went back to re-edit it like 30 years later. But
Yeah, and I know one of the things he tried to salvage was his daughter's performance in the film. And I know that parts of that balcony scene, certain lines were cut where the delivery was a bit stilted or a bit off key. Sofia Coppola's performance is a bit awkward. Um, Still, I mean, I don't know if people hated her performance so much as the idea of nepotism. Like, I'm not sure which one they hated more when it came out, because it does. I mean, it's the thing is, it
when
has
it
to
comes to
be his own
nepotism,
daughter
okay,
because
originally it was Winona Ryder that was going to play the role of Mary Corleone, but she had to drop out.
I mean, I'm saying, like, for artistic reasons, it's a lot more impactful, like watching Francis Ford Coppola, because
Yeah,
this is essentially like the death of Michael's daughter, and if we could
yeah,
view perhaps Michael as a an analog for Francis
yeah.
Ford
I
Coppola,
was going to say that
definitely a person who threw out like his artistic back, like 20 years earlier. At that point,
well,
Michael is obviously someone is a shell of the powerful person he once was. Francis Ford Coppola can relate
yeah.
to that, certainly.
Yeah, but also like he's always like casted family members in the Godfather films. Like it's something that was personal to him. Like it makes sense. But as far as like Sofia Coppola's performance, you know, a lot of times like performances, like what we see about it is like what's edited together, what's compiled together. We don't see like all like the bad moments, because you know, actors, they always like they mess up. It happens. But Sofia Coppola was always like kind of hated on for her role in Godfather Part 3. You know, there are some moments where it's like it's she's not on par with like you know, acting giants like Al Pacino. She's just not. But like,
No,
you know, I said on Twitter like I think she's good. I liked her. I liked her in Coda at least. Um,
I
uh,
think she's good. It's just, yeah, she's not on the same level as.
Andy Garcia or
Yeah, and that's who she spends most of her scenes with. It is a very sweet romance story, and I think that watching it on Coda, you can actually see the generosity of Garcia as well. I think he's not carrying her. That would
yeah, that
okay, fine, carrying her, because I do love Sofia Coppola. She's actually one of my favorite working like directors today. I'm not.
yeah.
I think even Coppola would admit that she is more a model than an actor, and more a director than either of those two things in the first place.
Yeah.
Acting was not for her. She belonged in film, but behind the camera. I think she's beautiful, wonderful to look at, but you do get to see Andy Garcia kind of carry her through some of these harder performances,
Mhm.
um, these harder scenes. But she's still responsible for some of the best moments in the film. Garcia wouldn't have been able to hit those lines as well if someone hadn't delivered them with such vacancy. Really, when Andy Garcia tells her at the opera to love somebody else, I've always thought that was such a
I
majestic
love that part.
moment,
Like it was like
and
something like
it wouldn't hit as hard if
yeah.
Sofia Coppola wasn't as awkward as she was delivering it, because she was
It's,
delivering it in a kind of infantilized, childish kind of way too, which made it seem like he was depriving a child of some fantasy.
mhm. Yeah, but at the same time, like I think she
Yeah.
works. It was good. uh
I
oh
think she works too. It's
and
just and the performance is probably better in Coda than it was in part three, considering he cut out a few lines that were particularly
stilted.
yeah, exactly. So it probably works better here. I don't have a good working knowledge of everything that part three was about, because I skipped watching it so many times.
Mhm.
And I alluded to it earlier. It's difficult to find a
Every single
comprehensive list,
change.
of
I
every
mean, I
single
mean,
change. It's just not available.
the beginning and the end is one of the biggest things that people took notice to. I believe that Bridget Fonda originally had more scenes too.
I would think she would have to have, because her entire motivation is to get a single interview with Michael, like that. But I don't know.
I can't remember off the top of my head because I saw it like 5 years ago.
I don't know, but Bridget Fonda looked wonderful in that badass scene where the two
Home
assassins
Invasion.
invade. Yep, the
Yeah,
home invasion scene.
that's such a good scene. Like Andy
It
Garcia
really
is
was.
so cool in that.
Andy
Um,
Garcia is awesome. Bridget Fonda is super sexy, wearing his like leather jacket in the kitchen, and he makes her go out there like to bait, like trap. Like, you know what? Maybe you'll get killed, but it'll be fine. I'll be okay. It's brutal. It's brutal. I think, okay, there are a couple elephants in the room with dealing with Godfather 3. So, like I said earlier, Francis Ford Coppola did famously throw out his artistic back on Apocalypse Now, but at that point in the 70s alone, he made Godfather 1, 2, Conversation, and Apocalypse Now, like 4 of
Conversation
arguably the best movies in a row.
Conversation was the same year as Godfather Part 2. Like that's just insane to me.
He overworked it. I don't know exactly what he did. He overworked it. What the Hearts
So
of Darkness documentary really
yeah,
captures it.
if
Uh,
somebody makes Apocalypse Now, they're allowed to make Jack, in my opinion. Like,
and like his post 70s work is, oh man, it's a different kind of beast, because I think it is obviously someone who is trying to recapture something that was ultimately lost. I do like The Outsiders a lot. I think that's a great movie. And
I haven't
until
seen too much.
Coda, that was the only post 70s Coppola film I really, really enjoyed. Uh, so an out
I haven't seen much from his later work. I like some of them, but I can't say that I love them. But
Well, I
that's all
mean, we
right.
were just saying that regardless of Coda being better than 3, it's still incomparable to the first 2 Godfather films. But I think it's fine because the way you framed it for me as a supplemental movie, as a movie that doesn't have a big number 3 next to it, as a movie that nearly feels optional, or like the final note of some sort of a melody,
Yeah,
some final thing to it.
which is what Coda is. Yeah, yeah. It's
Exactly. It works so much better. Just framing, just changing the title works so much better. Like, this film kind of benefits from everything that was going into it, or everything that went into it, I should probably say. But yeah, the beginning is different. The original beginning was like a bad, like, TV style flashback, like to
well, well,
fill
well,
you in.
yeah. It had like I can't remember where exactly in this. I don't know if it was at the very beginning, but they just showed Fredo's death from part two.
Mhm.
But I do believe it actually opened with the letter, which was perfectly a good scene. But like then it had like Fredo's death. It just felt kind of stilted.
Yeah, opened with like the letter and like an establishing shot of New York, but with the Twin Towers in it, which Coppola decided to remove as well.
Yeah,
So in this one, we go straight to the church.
I think that was like way later in the film, like originally, like
Yeah,
so. But
I think Coda treats its audience as more intelligent than Part 3 did, because Part 3 assumed that
yeah.
you forgot that Fredo died. But not only that, another thing that was changed in this film is that when his daughter, when Mary is shot on the opera steps, Michael has a flashback to dancing with Mary in Coda. In Part 3, he has a flashback to dancing with all 3 of the main women in his life.
His
His first
previous
wife, and
wives.
yeah, his
Yeah.
previous wife, best way of putting it. Life in Sicily, and with Kay, and then Mary, like all 3 of them. Whereas that is heavily implied during all of Part 3 and Coda. So he's kind of treating them more intelligently. Like, you don't need to have this hammered over the head. We've already had a
Yeah.
flashback. We've already established all the women in his life and how Michael has failed each one uniquely, almost karmically. Like,
Hmm. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the relationship kind of like closure that he has with Kay and Coda is really good, especially that
mm,
scene where Mary, Sofia Coppola's character, where she's taking a picture of them together. it just like works so well. I love
I
it.
think that scene is like really touching in a
Yeah.
lot of different ways. I feel like that is also Coppola, Francis capturing his daughter naturally too, because I imagine her as a kid running around with a camera, like snapping pictures of things, like
Right.
based on what I've read of her childhood. Like that's something that little Sophia would do. So that's also Francis capturing a home
Yeah,
movie
because
moment almost.
to her, it's just her divorced parents, like in the context of the film. But like at the same time, it's also like these characters have so much more weight to them in pop culture, and here it's just like they're just people. It's really good. I love it.
I love all
But
the scenes with Kay in Italy.
yeah,
Especially love Michael like trying to make morbid jokes, trying to joke about. Oh, I also think that Coda is a bit more self-aware than Part Three was. They
in
might
what
be
way? In
equally
what way?
self-aware, but I think it's like more focused here. And the idea that it's all no, it's definitely more self-aware. It's called a coda, which is a component of music, and almost specifically a component of operatic music. And if all of this is framed as an opera, with our finale taking place at the opera, with Michael alluding to, "I'm making a bad, it's opera, get over it, it's a bad joke." They're all talking about the opera. It is incredibly self-aware, actually. If it's treating itself as a piece, as a final piece of an operatic movement in music, and we're leading all the way to an opera, it is like actually pretty
Yeah, there's
self-aware.
a literal opera in it. Like,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
it
And I
works so
think that
well.
it makes so much more sense combining the title with the thematics of the film itself and condensing it like this. It makes so much more sense. It's so much more self-aware. I think the Godfather films have always been like existentialist, but in this one, we do get some cool 90s self-awareness. He was on it before anybody else. 1990, got it. He was there. Coppola on the pulse of what was about to be hip and trendy.
Speaking of the title, how do you feel about the death of Michael Corleone? Like, because that's another difference. Because in
Yeah,
in the original film, he puts on the sunglasses at the end, like some years after the events of the film, and he just dies alone next to like his dog. It drops an orange on the floor, or something like that. In this version, he just puts on his glasses and it fades to black. How do you feel about that?
yeah, I like it a lot more. I like the lingering tragedy of it. Um, I like
As
and I
his
like the
daughter dies, he basically dies in the inside. Like if that's his death.
well, yeah, I really like the quote too. I like the idea of an endless like karmic punishment for the things that you do. A Sicilian never forgets, and like the Sicilian's memory lasts forever. I forgot the quote at the end of the movie, but it really hit. It really hit hard. Michael will be living in that moment forever, because in the film we see that his memory is working nonstop, and it's all of these sad, bittersweet memories of loss of different women and people that he failed. I mean, even Vincent is a symbol of a brother that he failed. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody around him symbolizes something that he failed. His sister, who we have to talk about because her performance also shines
Oh,
through.
Talia Shire? Yeah.
Talia Shire. He failed
Yeah.
her. He killed her husband. Like I know that there was more
She's
involved in that, but ultimately, at the end of the day,
I will also say something. Because I watched the other two right before I watched this one. She's great in Coda. She is, and I feel like she's like way more spotlighted somehow.
yeah,
Maybe just because of what was cut out.
she's
But
right there on the cover of it. Even like
yeah,
she's a selling feature.
well, she was also great in my opinion in the first two, especially the second one. Like when like
She
she
is, but
visits
she just
Michael.
goes unsung. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
the women of the Godfathers definitely go unsung, because Diane Keaton and Talia Shire they do stand toe to toe with these titans, and they've
yeah.
done it
That's
for
what I'm
three
saying.
fucking movies, like three whole movies. They've stood toe to toe with these guys, and just kind of unrecognized for it. I can see why Sofia Coppola is unrecognized for what she did, but Talia Shire, I don't know why I had to toss shade at Sophia again, but
Well, I mean, it's just like let's just face it. Like, what she was like 18 or something when she was in this movie. Like,
mhm.
it's okay, it's fine. Like, but that, yeah, Talia Shire and Diane Keaton and they're so good. They're so good in all three of these movies.
It's wild because like her father opened up the decade with a disintegration of like the classicist cinematic American family, and then Coppola could end it with her debut of Virgin Suicides with also the disintegration of like the new modernist American family. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, I just want to like reiterate that Sofia Coppola is awesome. Just this performance in Coda is better than 3, but I wouldn't go into it thinking that it's any that her performance is like any different than what you actually remember it being. It's just a, a bit more digestible of a performance.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that.
And I felt for the romance a lot more between Vincent and Mary.
I thought it was really sweet.
I thought it was really sweet too. And
even though they are cousins,
they are first cousins too.
They are first cousins. That's all I'm
And I
going to say
can't
about
tell
that.
like what Michael is objecting to half the time. Sometimes it seems like he's objecting the fact that it is a first cousin. The other time,
Well, it's such like an incestuous,
thing.
like incestuous in like multiple ways, like
yeah,
how close the family is together. So it makes sense like thematically. But I think what he's objecting to is more so the fact that he wants that Vincent's going to continue like the crime, right? And
right.
then like so basically it's like either you choose my daughter or you choose this life that you want to live, right? Like but you can't have both. And then ultimately he chooses to be the next Don, right? The next Don Corleone.
Yeah.
And it's at the expense of poor Mary Corleone, and it works. It works.
I'm trying to focus in Coda. I'm seeing a couple analogs for characters that are no longer with us from the first 2 films. Like even,
Tom Hagen, played by Robert
yeah.
Duvall. That's probably the biggest loss, in my opinion, in this film. I mean, at the same, because I would really want to know like what they would do if he were in here, but he isn't, and it's unfortunate. But at the same time, I kind of like it being more about Michael without him in a way, like because it's moving past what The Godfather was in a way. And I do think that Robert Duvall really brought like a lot of the heart to the first 2.
Yeah, me too. I feel like Robert Duvall was so good in those original Godfather films. But John Savage is the actor, right, who plays his son in this?
Oh, Anthony Corleone?
No,
he
Tom
plays
Hagen's son.
Tom Hagen's son. Yeah, he was barely.
He was barely in it, which makes me think maybe he was in another scene in 3. I don't have a working memory of it.
I can't remember. I watched it like 5-6 years ago.
But he's always a good actor to see. Loved him in Hair and Deer Hunter, Do the Right Thing. Like he can act. He's very good at it. Let's see. I feel like if Tom Hagen was in it, he would have died at that huge mob hit at the like casino penthouse. Like to add more sting to that scene, I feel like that's where he would have died. I don't think he would have lived. Joe Mantegna in this movie, playing Joey Zaza. I hated him since I was a child. Oh my god, the way he speaks, and he used to do like audiobooks all the time too. And I'm like, who told you with that voice you should be speaking anywhere? It was perfectly cast. He has such a despicable way about him. And
it's a little bit like a kind of a caricature, but it's. I think it's fine though. Like I think he's fun.
Oh yeah, no, I was complimenting it because you're not supposed to like Joey Zaza.
Yeah.
You're supposed to completely despise Joey Zaza. Yeah, Andy Garcia gets to really run the gamut of the Corleone family here, because in Joey Zaza's assassination scene, it certainly reminded me of a De Niro Part 2 scene. Like it reminded me of that kind of exuberant city hit. That was awesome. Coppola's composition is interesting. Let me see more on the back of the box here. Yeah, Gordon Willis came back from. He did the cinematography of the first 2 films, and holy shit, like Part 2 in particular looks like stunning. And he brings
Part 1. Hey, I watched the back. I think Part 1 actually looks slightly better than Part 2.
I like Part 1 more than Part 2, but there's something about.
Oh, they're both beautiful. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and the third one looks quite nice too, but it's different though. It's a different aesthetic in a way, which I'm okay with because it's supposed to be
And if
linked
you're,
linked together, but also different. Like it's kind of
yeah,
separate. Just like Michael wants to be separate from it, but he can't quite be separate from it. You know, once he thinks he's out, they pull him back in.
like that's such a good line. I don't care. No, there are a couple great lines like don't ever hate your enemies, it clouds your judgment, or like don't ever let people know what you're thinking.
I love you, love someone else.
Yeah, that's a great Garcia line. Yeah, I'm starting to think that this film, I'm doing a proper analysis. It might just sound like an analysis of part three at this point, but I never saw part three as legitimate
Well,
until I watched
well,
Coda. So that's why
but the
it's sounding like
thing,
that.
but the thing about Coda is you have to realize this. Even though Coda does refine what was in part three, a lot of the good stuff was in part three.
Yeah,
I think that's one thing. But I've seen like these articles that like the few articles that talk about this movie, they're always like part three already was a masterpiece. Like where like you're just saying this now because you want to hype up this movie, but you didn't like it before. Come on,
they're
like
doing the opposite. They don't even want to hype it up. They just want to act like it doesn't exist because part three was already great in some weird contrarian universe that we live in. They're obviously written by people who weren't reviewing movies in 1990.
part or Code is definitely better than part three in my opinion.
Oh no, absolutely is.
But part three is still like a lot of the good stuff is there is what I'm trying to say. Like but it kind of, sometimes it just takes like a recut to really to fully realize that, you know, to realize that vision.
Oh no, that's absolutely true. It's just if we could take a stroll down analysis alley, if we can speak properly, um, just for fun, like out of everybody who could have died on those opera steps, why was it Mary?
She's the focus of that movie. That's why.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just her that's dancing in the recut instead of the
Mm-hmm.
other two. Like in a way, when I first watched it, I did like the fact that you also see Kay and his first wife. I can't remember her name. But at the same time, it's like, you know, Kay is still alive. He
Yeah.
didn't lose her in the same way.
And all of that is
Like,
established in Coda anyway. Like if
yeah,
he listens to that
yeah,
song sung by his son, he has a flashback to him dancing with his first wife, and then he and
yeah,
Kay, you can see there's
yeah,
still a
yeah.
chemistry
Like,
there.
yeah, and him and Kay are like they're both in the movie already. Like, it's fine. It works in my opinion.
Yeah, Mary had to die on those steps. Just what did she mean for Michael? Like, just the last woman in his life that he didn't fail yet, probably.
Yeah,
Um,
because she loves him, and like, and even with like his son, uh, like his son is like, I'm not gonna be in your business. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And Mary is like, well, Mary still loves me, and Mary wants to work with me and wants to be closer to me.
I think the person who loves him most is Vincent. I really do, because Vincent knows that that Michael killed Fredo, and like knows the value of lying about it to Mary. Like Vincent sees Mike. He loves Michael for all of those damaged qualities. And I just love that Vincent was brought into this cinematic legendary film family, elevated from bastard to Godfather. Maybe because I've spent a lot of time recently analyzing and dissecting these like 90s to early 2000s American postmodern movies, but I feel like it's a great way to bring in like this new generation, this new decade, like elevating this new arena of film or this new generation of cinema, and also corrupting it at the same exact time because they're
And moving
idolizing.
past it, like it's moving past like
Yeah,
Godfather is what it sort of is like moving past Michael Corleone and all these other awful people, but great characters. Like,
because I have read too that it might have started out it might have started its own trilogy too. Like if it was successful, we would have come back to Andy Garcia.
there were like plans of possibly making a sequel. That kind of, if I remember right, like I could be wrong, but from my memory, I think they're thinking of doing something with Leonardo DiCaprio
Yeah.
as a younger Sonny or something. I heard something about that. Like,
Yeah. I at least read of Leo's involvement
yeah,
in in a proposed sequel. I know that it would have focused on Andy Garcia's character primarily, but I mean,
I'm okay with them not making
I'm
that.
okay with them. Okay, I'm okay too. That's just Coda is lovely. Just imagining bringing in this like bastard generation, like son of a mistress, into this elevated status. Um, it moves beyond the Godfather in a way too, but it also tells us that
Well,
if
it's
you
like,
are
I mean,
you're corrupted by what brings you up too.
and that's sort of what the actual film itself is in a way. Like it's you know, you have like the legacy of the first two films, and then suddenly you have this bastard child in a way, and it's like
Yeah, that was exactly what I was gonna
yeah,
like peek at, was
yeah,
like there is a postmodern reading of the film for sure. Like a meta-analysis would be that this is the bastard child of two films that are normally considered to be some of
the
the
best
best that
films. Yeah,
cinema has ever given us. And you have this bastard son with a lot of attitude, a good amount of spunk, and is at the end of the day, you might hate it so much because it's so charming about itself or so confident. Um, but Coda, I think, makes good on that promise. Uh, I, I really love Coda. And this is coming as from someone who does not love Part 3 at all. I love Coda. Uh, it's now inside of my headcanon. I think it's great. And it was the film I was looking forward to ever since you told me about it. The film I was looking forward to the most in 2020.
we're like
I've
the
been
only one.
yeah, to be honest, it was the only one I was looking forward to as well. But I was thinking about like the precedent that it sets. This isn't the first time that a film has been recut. Far
Not even
from
the first, not the first time Coppola's even recut a film. Like he
no,
did like Apocalypse Now, like he did Apocalypse Now and Cotton Club a couple times. Like,
yeah, he did. We'll have our own conversations on those, but that's one where I like the original more than Redux or whatever. But we'll talk. We might talk about those at some point in the future. But I kind of like this kind of artistic project, because this project really excited me. The idea of Coppola coming back to 'cause it wasn't just coming back to Apocalypse Now and adding like more of what you loved or whatever. It was coming back to a film that was widely considered a failure and trying to show the value that he knows is inside of it. I do like the precedent that it sets. So many films have been recut and I think improved, like Blade Runner. I
oh,
actually think
definitely,
was
yeah.
improved. People like to point to George Lucas like recutting his films as a negative thing.
I think
I
it's
like the idea.
more of a positive. There may be some points that's kind of like what, but for the most part, like you know, touch up special effects, trying to make things more cohesive, works for me, in my opinion. And of course, like Coppola and Lucas are friends, and they kind of follow
Yeah,
the same path.
in my wildest fantasy, they called each other during quarantine, and Lucas was like, "Well, you could always touch up that movie you did.
Maybe add some CGI.
That would be great."
Uh, but
I could have seen Al Pacino in
well,
quarantine with a
well,
green
actually,
screen behind him.
well, George Lucas actually edited a scene in The Godfather. A lot of people don't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
it's the part with the newspaper montage or something like that. Like he edited that,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but he also did it with like he touched up like THX 1138 also. Lucas did.
Yeah, and I don't like Lucas recuts, but I like the idea of it. I like it existing. I like the artistic process. It's this thing that is evolving. This thing is Coda is like it's dynamic. That films are dynamic. People these auteurs, these directors, these artists come back and reframe a story for us like this, especially one that wasn't appreciated when it was initially released. It gives it so much, it gives it a flavor. And I
Zack
don't care.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Well, that's also interesting to look at. Probably, I mean, I couldn't care less about it, but like I do like the artistic integrity of directors, or hell, I mean, I don't care. I think it's just a really
I
exciting
like.
project to be working on.
Yeah, I think it's probably more of a net positive, even though I think Snyder should move past superhero films already. But like,
I've never liked that's besides.
yeah, that's besides the point.
um, but
But
Coda is just I think a remarkable exercise, a remarkable project, and I think it's one that that is completely successful in everything that it does. And I think the byproducts of it being so successful is that certain things are shining in it that were always there and available. It was just difficult to appreciate with all the with how cluttered part three was. It's
Yeah.
difficult to appreciate that like Andy Garcia laid down like one of the best performances of his generation in this one. It's difficult to appreciate that Al Pacino's performance is almost just as nuanced as it was before, just in a way that is
And
powerless.
Keaton too. Yeah, Keaton too.
Keaton, of course. Keaton was coming up.
Yeah,
I remember we
one of
railed against
yeah,
how no one talks about the women of the Godfather. She was coming up, but Talia Shire shines through like she never has before.
yeah.
An incredibly strong performance. I mean, I love her poisoning Eli Wallach's character and like looking at him, trying to like keep an eye on him to when
Oh,
he
with the
dies.
cannoli, yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. And
That's
she has to
great.
take a bite of it too, and that's such an intense moment. That's so much fun. And what else is there? Just Coda, I think is a great film. I don't think Part Three is a great film, and I still don't. I think that minor changes or reframing something, changing music cues, anything you do to a scene alters the feeling, the meaning, the takeaway of the thing that you are like. That's obvious, or else editing, or else it wouldn't matter, or else we'd never talk about it.
Right.
um, People have called this a cash grab, and I'm telling you right now, not a lot of people are paying cash for the Godfather Coda. It definitely feels more like a passion project, like a labor of love for Francis Ford Coppola. No one's talking about Coda. Uh,
I don't get
I
it.
can't find much. I can't find too many people talking
This is
about
the
it, let
most
alone excited for it.
this is the most acclaimed trilogy. I mean, just with the first two films alone, like this is probably the most acclaimed trilogy of all time. And nobody's talking about the recut. That's so weird to me.
Not at all. And if they are talking about it, it's so lukewarm.
Yeah.
It's I was so excited to hear that Coppola was coming back to it, and I'm still excited. Like this is it takes a lot out of me to rewatch The Godfather Part One and Two within the same year, and I watched Coda twice in a week. That there's something to it. It feels so much better. The pace, everything about it as far as greater improved, greatly improved, and I definitely think it's a great film now. Um, just to
Yeah.
reiterate for anyone who like didn't hear the first 50 times I said it, part one and two are on their own unreachable pedestal, and Coda can't come close. But that's part of the like poetic irony, like part of what's so tragicomic, and tragically beautiful about Coda is that it's this bastard. It's the Vincent Mancini of the Godfather story.
And now the film has become now that Bastard Child has become the new Dawn. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and
And I
I
think
think it
that's
should be welcomed.
I think it should absolutely be welcomed, and I think it should be welcomed in a bittersweet way as well. The way that it's framed here, and because man, crime films really did take a turn. Crime films are different now. The whole genre is different now. Filmmaking is different now. Coppola expresses a lot in Coda that was missed in the original, and Coda is just absolutely great. Is there anything else? Is there anything else that we're possibly missing from here? Um, like just to like the opera scene is super fucking intense.
Oh, especially the very ending when it goes into that song that's in Raging Bull, like and the
Right.
montage kicks in, like so good. Love it, love it. There's a moment of silence before you finally hear Al Pacino scream out,
Oh,
like
how could I forget, man? That scream brings tears to my eyes. Like it compels, elicits true emotions from me when I'm watching that scream. The last sounds from a dying man. Like it's incredible with the sound muted at first, and we're seeing everyone's reaction to him essentially dying on the steps as well, at least metaphorically, symbolically, for all intents and purposes, dying on those steps too. And then his sound kicks back in, and it's just horrifying to hear how powerless and how dead it, because it's Al Pacino, it's Michael Corleone, it's the death of Michael Corleone.
yeah.
It's oh god, it gets me so well though. Holy shit, that that's why you pay Pacino the big bucks, you know? Like, holy fucking shit. That's really good. We should think of how to end this. Um, would you I wish more people would watch Coda, give it a chance. If you liked part 3, if you didn't like part 3, definitely watch it. It deserves to be discussed.
Yeah,
because I'm of the belief that these changes can change
yeah.
everything.
Even if somebody still doesn't like it, I still would like people to discuss it at the very least, because it's like, it just seems like it's not. I don't see that discussion happening, and I feel like that's kind of a shame, because this is such a, maybe society has just moved past Godfather.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I know that Paramount isn't a little company or anything like that, but in circles that you and I are normally engaged with, complain so much about certain mega companies monopolizing conversation, or certain filmmakers even just monopolizing conversation. And then when an interesting project like this comes along, no one's talking about it. I mean, it's because no one's talking about it. I just wish there was more discussion around it, because I think it's a fascinating exercise, and I think that the results are really astonishing. It was successful.
Yeah.
Coppola successfully made a good third Godfather film 10 years after he made it. Or 20 years after he made it. Sorry, 20.
30.
That's how old I am. Yes, I came out the year I was born. Fuck.
30 years.
Don't make stop it, dude. I feel so old now. Well, I mean, much like the existential crisis that is Godfather Coda, I am now in one because I'm 30. So take it away, Justin. Wrap us up here.
Zachary Conan, Coda. The death of film lovers is sick people.
Film lovers are sick people.
The death
of Zachary Conan.
Yeah. Coda. Zachary
that
Coda.
Sounds pretty powerful.
Zachary Coda.
Oh shit. God. Gotta change the channel name again. Gotta do that again. No, this is just an incredible film. Now. Yeah, it's just great. We're not good at wrapping up videos, guys. In the comments, definitely try to see this movie. It's easy to access. Like, go to your normal retail store. Hell, you can like find it online. You can find it anywhere. It's The Godfather. It's easy to access. Watch it. Talk about it.
Yeah, and if you have seen it, just let us know. I'm very curious to have this conversation spark, at least to some degree. Also, if you want to see us like cover more films together, let us know what you want us to cover.
Because we will cover more films together regardless. But
and if you like this format too, let us know.
Or do you like still images for 10 minutes that don't ever change? Let me know that too. Oh shit. You see? That was good. That was good.
No,
right?
that's staying in there. That's staying in there.
You get to decide.
Now
this format?
Yeah. You like that? Yeah. All right. I think we can end it there.
That's good.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.